All right, welcome back. Have we figured out a name for our podcast yet, Chase?
We're brainstorming some and came up with a few good ones. A little bit of background, I would say, for everyone watching is we do a lot of the same things, but we kind of have two different personal brands that we talk about and are very true to who we are and what we do, and trying to find a way to blend them. So I think what we're going with going forward is this is going to be the Consistency Engine podcast.
Yeah, I love that too. You know, at the end of everything, you know, all my posts I share, and I always talk about stay consistent and how important that has been in my life and in my journey through personal development. And you know, you do the same thing with your Engineer It brand. And how can we take those two? How can we mold them together and create something for everybody out there? And I think the Consistency Engine, it sounds cool.
Yes.
One, I think that's where you need to start. Does it sound cool? And what's like kind of the meaning behind it? And I think molding those two things together, I think we found a good name for our podcast finally.
Yes. 100% agree. And Engineer It for me, which reflects on this podcast, is engineering things is not just inside of your business. It is your life, fitness, relationships, nutrition, communication. Like all of that can be reverse engineered and made to be more efficient, more optimized. And like Engineer It being an engineer by degree, that is true to who I am, and it's true to what I stand by.
Yeah, so we're going to formally welcome you to the Consistency Engine podcast, and I'm your host, Daine Patton, and we have Chase Collier as well. So we thank you for joining us, and we're, like I said, this is going to be 30 to 45-minute podcast. We're going to talk about different topics and a lot of the pillars that we both share and what we think leads to a successful life. And one of those pillars for me and for you is fitness.
Yes.
And I think today would be a good day to talk about fitness. We can talk about our fitness journeys a little bit and how they've impacted our lives and our businesses, and at the end of this, some takeaways and maybe some challenges that we can put out there for the people for something that they can take away and implement in their life.
100% agree. With kind of my entrepreneurial journey, I was never into fitness. I never did contact sports like football. No desire to do. Growing up, I swam, I golfed, I bowled. So like all the nerdy things that didn't rely on being the biggest and strongest, like that was my sport. So like not until I was probably in college did I start getting into a weight room. I never really lifted weights. I was just a scrawny kid who could swim and golf. Like, yes, there's athleticism through that, but it wasn't football and how much can you bench and squat and all of that stuff. And I remember in college, before any of the business stuff, that one of the things I was core values-ish to me was health, wealth, and motivation. Those were kind of the three pillars that I created before I even got into business, because they all three go hand in hand. There's a place for all of them within everybody. And focusing on that health piece just made me be able to grow the rest of them.
Yeah, I kind of thinking back to college. I didn't go to college. I actually started family early, so right out of high school. You know, the year after high school is when I had my first child, and so you know, health and wealth and motivation wasn't something back then that I really focused on or thought about. I had to grow who I was, but I had a new human that I was responsible for. And I think back to high school, you know, growing up as a kid, I was always kind of a huskier kid. I've always been a little bit bigger. But in high school, I kind of leaned out because I was playing football, like you were talking about. So I got into football, and we were doing 2-a-day practices, and I was actually excelling at that stuff for the first couple years that I played. But then, the temptations of girls and cars and needing money to afford those kinds of things, that took me away from sports, and I kind of left all of the lifting and all of that together to go to start working. And that really kind of changed the trajectory. I probably would have went to college if I would have continued to play football. I remember when I was a sophomore, I used to get letters in the mail from colleges, watching me play football, and different things like that. But it just never, hindsight's 20/20.
Yes.
If I would have applied myself back then, who knows what would have happened. But I also realized that the path that I went down was the right path because it's been able to create what I've been able to create today.
Yes. And one of the things you kind of stated there was when you were younger, you really didn't think about or care about the future as much. And I would say that's one thing true to both of us is we do want to help the youth. Whether you're in high school or college, there's a ton of people with so much potential. They want to do amazing things. And one of the things that I didn't have for a big time was guidance or support or mentors. And we can talk more on that later, but I think that is something that is very strong passion for us, is helping people get into business, get into finding what their why is and being able to grow off of that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's one of the reasons we're doing this, podcast, and one of the reasons we show up and do all the things that we do is to be that lighthouse for somebody else, to show them, what's possible. And that's why we talk about and share about our pasts so much that we do, because it's like, hey, we were at this place, and maybe you were in this place. And I think that's why my story is so powerful to people, is because I put myself in a place where I was extremely overweight and I was drinking way too much. And when you look around, that's the general public, a lot of obesity, a lot of people that want to lose weight. I mean, losing weight actually really isn't that hard. Most people everywhere has lost weight before, but have they actually built and changed their lifestyle to keep the weight off and then continue to grow from that? That's the thing that I think has set me apart in because I did that yo-yo dieting thing before. I put on weight, I lost it, put it on, did that stuff back and forth, and now I've been able to lose it, and I've been able to keep it off, and we're like almost 5 years now since I've been able to do that.
Question for you, since topic is health and fitness. Back when you were kind of in that state of obesity, let's just say, what was your kind of mindset or thought of health or living a healthy lifestyle versus what it is today?
Yeah, I didn't even think about it.
Okay.
It wasn't even on the top of my mind. Like, I didn't even understand what really calories were. I didn't understand what micro and nutrition was. Didn't understand any of that stuff. Like, I was a consumer. I was a product of marketing. So if something looked good or sounded good or tasted good, it was going into my mouth. And if I could get it, if I could access it, I was going to consume it. That's how, we're marketed all kinds of food things and how we can get, ultra convenience fast food as quickly as possible. I was buying that and I was consuming it, and I never thought about health and fitness. Yeah, when I was playing football, I knew that you had to work out, and I knew that you had to be able to perform athletically. But after that, no one was ever. I wasn't following anybody that was teaching me that kind of stuff. And once I actually started listening to somebody, and once I started to see what was possible, once I started to feel good. And like, I didn't know my body could do these things. Like, I didn't know it could look this way. Like, that stuff was really eye-opening.
Well, one of the things for me is the mindset piece of it, but being somebody who has been able to keep a fairly healthy body, stay physically fit, eat good food most of the time, because I still like my donuts and pastries, but like the the thing on that is when I do not feel good, I can't imagine living like that all of the time. Like if I get sick, if something just is off, like I'm not down for the count. I still do the work that I need to get done. But one of the things I've thought about is how do people live like this all of the time? And part of it is frog in boiling water. They've lived like that so long that they don't know any other way. But what was something that kind of was the catalyst, or is there a pinpoint moment that was like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm going to move forward?
Yeah, I've been asked that question a lot, and pinpoint moment, for me, I've shared it a couple different times on other podcasts or interviews I've done in that, but it was really my youngest son, Franklin. He was 4 years old at the time, so this was 5 years ago. Well, he'll be 10 later this year. So, at daycare, he was given this little survey, and he was supposed to fill out. And he couldn't really write yet. He was 4, so the teacher would read it to him, and then he would respond, and then she would write everything down. And it was it's Father's Day, so you get to know your dad or that kind of stuff. And he said that my dad's Dane Patton. And he said my dad's 7 feet tall. My dad weighs 400 pounds. And then it said, what was your favorite thing? What's your dad's favorite thing to do? And he responded to that question as my dad's favorite thing to do is chug beers. And so I get that, and I start reading through that, and then it hits me. It's like, dude, this 4-year-old who, they see the world as it is. They don't know how to lie. They don't know what they don't know. They just speak the truth, and that was his truth of me. And that was in June of that year, and it really sat with me, and that was probably the catalyst. It was like, if my 4-year-old sees me like this, what does my 2 older boys see of me? And what does my wife see of me? Or just what does everybody in general see of me and how I show up and who I am? I'm a fat, heavy drinker. That's what that told me. And a lot of my identity was built around that at that time.
Yes.
But like the frog in the boiling pot of water that you talk about, like when I looked at myself in a mirror, it just seemed like that was just the person I was. And I couldn't see the person that was deep inside, but I understood that there was something inside of me that I was, self-medicating. I was just continuing to do the same thing. And I said I had to make some changes. And it took me about 2 months to get that through my head that I actually had to commit to this. And it was August of that year is when I really decided to go back to the gym and to start learning and reaching out to somebody that could help me. But that was probably the moment that comes back to me every single time. And I know I saved that paper somewhere, but I don't know where. I probably hid it, but I do have it somewhere.
Yeah. There's just a lot of stuff to unpack, and I know we both have our own stories on kind of our journeys, but the mental piece of it, one, finding the why that is big enough. One of the common statements out there is like, you're not going to change until the pain of staying the same is more than the pain of change. And you got to a point that you felt that. And we are here to tell everybody, like, we support you. We want you to make a change. We want you to do what is best for your physical being, your mental being. And it's not going to be an easy journey. Through everything I've done, I continue to say it will not be easy, but it will be worth it. And nothing that is worth it comes easy. And the stuff that we talk about, it's hard to talk about, but it has made such a difference, not just to you, but to your family and everybody that views you. Like, I didn't get introduced to Daine until he was I don't know, a year-ish into his weight loss journey.
I'd probably had lost almost 70 pounds by the time that I had met you. I think when I met you, I was in that 250-ish range. So not as light as I got, but yeah.
And like the word identity, I think that's a very important thing to hit on, because we have the identity that we view ourselves as, and we have the identity that everyone else views us or perceives us as. And because I didn't meet Daine when he was in his beer chugging days, let's say, like, that was not my perception or identity that I saw of Daine. It was somebody who was taking action, willing to put in the time to make the change for the positive impact. And one of the hardest things with growth is being able to shift that identity. And one thing that was personally hard for me as I grew in business and in life was the people that I knew 5, 10, 15 years ago who would come up and they're like, hey, this isn't the you that I remember. And my response is, that's fine. This is the new me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is the me that I want you to know, that I want to introduce you to, that would be great for you to get to know. Like me back then, yes, I was still fun, but I was fun in a different way, knew different stuff, talked about different things. But this is me now, and I would like you to respect me. And like Daine has been one of those persons that I look up to, respect, and the changes he's made in his life, his family's life, his business, and our community because of the change that he was willing to put in physically has just compounded. Like it's one of those things that you can't eat an elephant in one bite.
Yep, one bite at a time.
2 other things I'll hit on is the mentor. Like when you get mentors, coaches, people behind you that are a support system, those people see your identity as the best version of you. They see the potential, they see what you can be, and the more people like that you can put around you, the faster you're going to make the changes to live the best life that you can. But one question is, like, how did you get started in the gym when you decided to make this change? Because one of the questions that I get asked a lot is either, where do you find the time to go to the gym or be active? And like same with the nutrition side of it, is it's expensive, there's not enough time, and don't want to say it's all excuses, but you don't have to start running a marathon on day one.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's what people think that they need to do, is drastically change their entire life overnight to become this new version of themselves. And there was times where I thought that too. You know, like I said, I've yo-yo dieted for many different times, and that was what I did. You know, the whole new year, new me. I'm going to change everything, and then once I burn out, then what happens? You go right back to the same thing that I used to do. And this time was different though. This wasn't about just wanting to look better. It wasn't just I needed to lose some weight around my belly or whatever, you know, that was, and it wasn't because I wanted to lose some weight, so because I was going on a trip or, you know, the beach body or whatever. I needed to prove to myself and prove to my kids that I was more than what they saw me as. And so I didn't have a weight loss goal in sight or anything like that. When I met with the coach at that time, I said, like, I just want to be a better version of me, and I know that he's in there somewhere, and I'm willing to do the work because this is bigger than just me. And he said, well, okay, we'll build some systems for you, things that you can follow, and we'll do a little bit at a time. And that's really how you change your life, is you find something small that you can change. You can replace a bad habit with a good habit, and you can be consistent with it. That's why I talk about stay consistent, because I consistently made those changes and then just kept up with them. And then they just became part of my identity. And getting back in the gym, when I first started, that was all I knew, was getting back into the gym, because I used to work out when I played football in high school. So I knew how to lift weights a little bit. So that's what I went and did. But that actually, I hit a plateau because I didn't know how anything besides like your major 3 lifts. That was all I really knew,
Yeah.
and that's what I did. But I didn't understand the nutrition aspect of it. And my coach Matt, he taught me about nutrition, and then he taught me about the power of walking. We all don't understand that walking is like a fat loss super hack. Just moving your body, just walking, and we did all kinds of different things. We tried the rowing machine, we did the stair stepper, we did the elliptical, we all of the cardio machines there. But I was just like, you know what? I like to walk around the lake. Like, I can go outside, walk around the lake. It's a little bit different elevation, and and it's about 2.5 miles. So I can work that in. That's 30 to 40 minute walk every day. I could probably do that. And that's what I started with. And I don't know how many pounds of fat I lost walking around that lake, but I just consistently did it. And then I'm outside, I'm getting the sun on my skin, getting some vitamins, vitamin D, and it was just peaceful. But also at the same time, what was I doing? I was listening to some sort of personal development. I was listening to a book. I was listening to a podcast. Somebody sharing ideas I'd never thought of or heard before, and that was just that supercharged me, because I was killing 2 birds with 1 stone here. I was getting exercise in, and I was learning.
Yes, all of that is an awesome story. A quote that I think will come up very often is that motivation is the byproduct of action. And when I say that, it can be interpreted different ways, but like I'm sure for you, as like me, business or fitness, when we started these journeys, we were comparing ourselves to other people. We were trying to get motivated by seeing other people's action and other people's success. And yes, listening to podcasts, YouTube videos, like, get pumped up. If you can't do it on your own, listen to something or someone and get pumped up. But the true motivation happens when it comes from yourself. When you start seeing yourself put in the action, the weight fall off, the muscle gain, the business grow, the family grow, like, all of that is motivation for you. That was the byproduct of your action. And that is one of the biggest motivations that you will find in your life.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, just like I said earlier, like my body could do things that I didn't know that it was possible before. And that was, that you build confidence in yourself when you take that action and you start seeing the results. And it takes a while for the results to come. It took how many years for me to get to that point, and it wasn't going to happen as quickly as I wanted it to shed. But I knew that I had a plan, and I had somebody I could trust that was going to keep me accountable for what it was that I wanted to do. And then when those excuses crept in, guess what? He was a phone call away or a text message away, and I was like, hey, I'm not feeling like I want to do this today. Or I really want to eat that cookies and ice cream or whatever it was. And he taught me about the future version of myself, and how does that future version of me want to feel. And we talked. A lot of it has to do with like psychology and that mindset. And I was like, man, that's good. And it's like, because I know that the fleeting moments of that comfort of eating that or not doing the work, makes me feel good for a few moments. But then what happens to that future version of myself? I set myself back. I'm not as far ahead as I could have been if I would have not eaten it or if I would have done the work. And it's like, I don't want to let that person down, because that person, that version of me tomorrow, next month, next year, he has even bigger goals than I do right now. And if I'm holding him back because I'm not doing the work, like, I'm letting him down. And then who gets let down because he doesn't become the version of himself that he's capable of? And that's the way that I think about things all the time now. And I'm not gonna lie, there's times where I'll eat some ice cream, or maybe I'll have something like when we're traveling or whatever, but it's intentional.
Yes.
I make sure that there's a plan and there's an experience involved and it's shared. It's not like the days where I used to go and buy the worst food, two Philly's cheesesteak sandwiches and sit in my truck and gorge myself by myself, and nobody was around, and I felt like I had to hide it. Like that's not what it's about anymore. It's about having the experience and in sharing, because food is an experience too.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to demonize any kinds of food or anything like that, but I do want to say, you can have that stuff, but you can be intentional about it.
Yes. And it all really comes down to balance. Like people have said, well, one salad's not going to make me skinny. And that's an excuse, but it's also a true statement. And on the flip side of things, people know me because I like pastries. Like that's one of the things people give me crap about. But at the same time, when I'm hitting my protein goals, when I'm working out, lifting weights, getting my steps in, I can have a donut, I can have a pastry. When my wife and I go on vacation, we'll share a croissant, share a donut. Like it's part of the experience, but it's also factored into things. And like that's one of the pieces that I think scares a lot of people, is that it is not all in, it's not all or none. There's a balance there, and once you find out what that balance looks like for yourself, that fits into your life, that fits into your family life, that is where you're going to be the happiest. And you don't need to be the strongest person in the room. You don't need to be the fastest when it comes to running. Like, what is your personal goal? And figure out what that is.
Yeah. How do you want to show up for yourself first? Do I have fitness goals? Certainly. But I have a family I got to take care of. I have employees. I have a business I got to take care of. I have people in the community that expect a certain version of me, and it's my responsibility to show up and be that version. So yeah, I mean, I'm one of the guys that gives them crap about donuts. Yes. But I also, it's in good fun and play, because guess what? Once you like become, this physical version of me who I am today, I can hammer a bunch of donuts and it really wouldn't matter. I mean, it would matter because I wouldn't feel good, but like, I'm not going to gain 50 pounds by eating a bunch of donuts in one sitting. The old version of me pretty much would gain weight right after I do that, because I wasn't doing all of the other things. And it was kind of a mindset shift to understand that, because I had to be so restrictive for so long on my eating, and then I was like, oh, could I eat this? I don't know. And I did, and I was like, wow, actually my muscles filled out a little bit more, because I just hit a bunch of carbs, and they actually the sugars went places that they were supposed to, not right to my gut.
Yeah. Question for both of us to answer: what does your current workout plan or program look like?
Yeah, so it's changed, and that's one thing I wanted to touch on too, when you're talking about how does somebody start, or where do they get started. When I first got started, I worked out in the evening, because that was the only time that I could find inside my family schedule, my work schedule, and that kind of stuff. So I started in the evenings, and that lasted for a little while, and I could be consistent with it. But then what happened is I found out I was missing some time with my wife, and that I didn't realize what I was missing out on. I was going to the gym. I felt like I was doing the right thing and getting the workout in, but then I was missing that time that I had to kind of bond with my wife at night. So then I went to a early morning guy, and I was early morning for a couple of years, and I enjoyed it and I loved it. But then I kind of got to a point where I realized I was missing out on time with my kids in the morning, and like having that extra time with them is more important than what my system was to get up early in the morning. So now I've been able to I'm blessed to be able to have a team that can run things, so I can go work out in the afternoon, like around 3 to 5 o'clock. I can leave the office, I can go get my workout in, and then I can spend time with the family. But like I've gone through every every stage, and just we all have different seasons of life, and understanding what, one season something's going to come, but then you have to change and adapt and pivot and overcome that stuff. So I've switched that up a few different times, and it's going to change over time too. Like yesterday, I couldn't get to the gym, but that's why I got weights at home. So I got a quick 35-40 minute workout in. And I love to move, so I love to go every single day, because it's not necessarily about the weights. It's more about the routine and the habit and the action. Some people say gym therapy, but it's just, that my time to kind of just clear my head and be focused in on one thing, and it's just getting better.
Yes. Yeah, I love that answer. I'm similar in the aspect that I'm at the gym probably 6 to 7 days a week. It didn't start that way when I was in college and started working out. It was 3 to 5 days a week. I did the normal bodybuilder split, like push-pull legs or upper body, lower body, just depending on the time. But you don't have to be in the gym every day. Part of it comes down to, again, what is your goals with your family and with you as a person? Because you can, for example, I'm normally not in the gym for more than 45 minutes a day. I'm not doing 2-hour workouts. I'm not just obliterating myself when I'm at the gym. But like Daine said, for me, it is therapy. It's me versus me. It's the one place that my phone can be silenced. I don't have to worry about the outside world. And it is just me. And like that piece of it is therapy for myself. There's a lot of mornings that I'm at the gym at 6-ish in the morning, get home, have coffee with my wife, and then start my work day. Like that's kind of the system we've structured for ourselves. And there's people who might work out 2 hours at a time, but only work out 3 days a week. Like find what works for you, because what I do or what Daine does may not be the right fit. It may not be the right time. And like when it comes to fitness, the cool thing is there's so much flexibility out there. If you want to train like a bodybuilder and do barbell, dumbbells, and heavy weights, you can do that. If you care more about mobility and flexibility, there's a lot of things you can do for that. If you like cardio, there's swimming, treadmills, rowing machines, being outdoors. Fitness shouldn't be one thing. It's this big thing that all goes together, and whatever fits for you and helps achieve your goals should be the fitness you're looking for.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And that's like what I said, I tried so many different things. I wanted to see what could I throw up against the wall and have that stick? Like what could I implement? And weight training turned out to be the thing that I love, because I had a little bit of background in it, and I love just the pushing myself and figuring out where those limits are, and then how do I get past them. And I've taken so much that I've learned in the weight room, in the gym, and been able to take those principles and apply it to my business. And you don't think about, how I have said it plenty of times before, but this weight loss journey that I've been on turned into the most incredible personal development and professional development, that I never knew that I needed. And I've learned a lot about myself and about how to run a business and about how to treat people by treating myself with respect and putting myself first, and understanding that the more that I give to myself, the more that I give to everybody else. And that's been so powerful in this. And that's why, fitness is one of the foundations that we're going to talk about a lot, because you can't, if you don't have your health, what do you have? What's the quote? The healthy person has 1,000 dreams, but the sick person has one, and that's to have good health. Yeah. And that's why we're going to talk about why it's going to be a topic that consistently comes up over and over again. And we just want you to find something that works in your life, something that fits in your life, and it doesn't have to be every day like we are. 2 to 3, like really, we'd probably have even better results physically if we just followed, 3 days of strength training. Like every major strength training coach that isn't, a bodybuilder on gear tells me that I should just be strength training 3 days a week and then giving my body enough time to rest. And at some point, I'll probably get to that.
Yeah.
But I just like the act of going to the gym and doing those things. So at some point, I'll probably do that. And then who knows? I'll become that crazy mobility guy and start dunking and be in the gym doing that kind of stuff again.
Doing the splits.
Yes. That's one thing I've never been able to do is the splits, and I don't know if I ever will. But who knows? We'll give it a shot someday.
Well, this was super insightful. I know in the future we're going to dive a lot deeper into fitness and different workouts, different things you can do, things to just optimize your body and overall health. Nutrition's going to be a topic that we do a lot of deep diving on because it is so impactful. Like, I thought in the beginning of my fitness journey, it was just about the gym, not about the nutrition. And that came afterwards, but that nutrition piece is the most important part of it.
Can't out-train a bad diet.
Nope. But there's a lot more to come. Appreciate everyone watching this, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Consistency Engine.
All right. Thanks, everybody.